change the color code to BE52 and F2 like this. And the second one as well. Let me remove the fill, add stroke, and I'm going to change the color code to DB, A5 and F5. Okay. And the next one, we are going to do the same thing. So the color code is going to be EE, D, F, and 2. And we don't need the last one. Let's keep it simple. So these 3 are enough. Now it's time to create the border style, okay? So let's select the first one, and I'm going to click on these 4 dots. Just like creating color styles, here I'm going to write colors, border 1. Let's copy this. The next one is going to be colors, border 2. And the last one is going to be colors, border 3, like this. Okay. And now let's create a new shape. Pretty good. And I'm going to apply the border style to this. So I can add stroke, and from color styles, I can choose the border color like this one, and let's remove the fill. Fantastic. I can easily change it to the second one and to the third one. Alright, now we need to add shadows to our style guide. So I think it's a good idea to add them here in this artboard. So I'm going to go ahead and change this title to borders and shadows. And let's change the name of artboard as well. Borders and shadows. Fantastic. And then we need to rename this group to borders. These groups as well. Okay. Now let me duplicate it. And let's write shadows. You're going to have 4 different kind of shadows. So I'm going to duplicate the last one like this. Fantastic. And let's select the first one. We need to detach them from their style. Pretty good. And let's select the first one. And here I'm going to add effects. Pretty good. And instead of stroke, let's add a solid color to it. Okay. So I'm going to remove the stroke and use fill. Alright, now let's go to the advanced setting here. And I'm going to change the blur amount to 10 and the X amount to 1 and the Y to 5. Okay, let's change the opacity to 20% as well. And after that, we can create an effect style. So just like color styles, we can click on this plus icon. And here, let's write shadows 1 and the second one as well. So let's add fill to it and also an effect. And then I'm going to modify the setting. Now let's set the blur amount to 20 and the X amount to 5 and the Y amount to 10 like this. And of course, let's decrease the opacity to 20. And once again, we need to create our effect style. So I'm going to write shadows 2. And the next one, the same process. I'm going to add effects to this. The blur amount is going to be 20. The X is going to be 2. And the Y is going to be 10. And now let's decrease the opacity to 10%. And I'm going to create a new effect style. So let's write shadows 3. And the last one, once again, add fill to this. And also an effect. And I'm going to set the blur amount to 14, the X to 1, and the Y to 5. And now I'm going to set the opacity to 10%. Fantastic. Let's create our effect style, shadows 4. Pretty awesome. Then let's rename the groups to shadows for all groups. Remember that, to keep our layers as organized as possible. And now I'm going to show you how you can use this. Okay, let's go ahead and create a shape. For instance, a square. And then I'm going to change the color to something like this. And if I click on these 4 dots in the effects section, you can see that I have 4 different shadows. So I can click on one and there we go. I can easily change it to anything I want. It's pretty cool, isn't it? Alright guys, that's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and I will see you in the next video. Hi, in this video we're going to be talking about the text style. Just like what we did with our colors, we are now going to be doing with our typography. So in this section, we're going to be creating our own text style and we need to set different sizes different weights, and also different colors to our typography style in order to use it in our project. So I will see you in the next video. Hi! In this video, we're going to be talking about the text style. Just like what we did with our colors, we are now going to be doing with our typography. So in this section, we're going to be creating our own text style, and we need to set different sizes different weights, and also different colors to our typography style in order to use it in our project. So I will see you in the next video.
Let's go now, it's time to get busy. Let's go now, it's time to get busy.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another section of this course. In this, I'm going to be talking about layouts, iconography, typography, colors, composition, and so much more. If you want to become a professional and great UI/UX designer, you need to start off with design basics. So now that you know the importance of knowing design basics, let's start this module. Hi everyone. In this video, we're going to be talking about layouts in design. When it comes to UI/UX design, the way we show the information in an app or website is so important. As a matter of fact, there is not a specific right way to create your own composition. So you can easily create a layout based on your own need as long as it is consistent and understandable to users. As you can see in the pictures on the right, both screens are well designed. Although the spacing is different, the composition is absolutely clear and consistent. You need to pay attention to consistency a lot while you're designing a user interface. No matter what kind of platforms you're designing for, the same rules apply to all of them. Alright, now let's check these pictures out. As you can see in the left picture, the distances are quite consistent. For instance, if you look at the distance between the profile image and the top of the screen, you can realize that the value is 50 pixels. And also the distance between the same profile image and the text field right under that is again 50 pixels. As you can see, the layout of this design is quite clear. And the reason of that is because of the consistency of spacing. In the next lectures, we will also talk about spacing and the importance of that in design. Now, if you look at the right picture, you can realize that the design is also clear in that layout. However, the only difference is the colors and the spacing. But as you may have noticed, the spacing is again consistent. Alright, thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you in the next video. Hi everyone. In this video, we're going to be talking about visual hierarchy. Visual hierarchy is about how we look at designs. Does it sound weird? So let's put it in another way. We as designers should put ourselves in users' shoes in order to realize how they see our designs. Content in any digital page layout will pursue a particular hierarchy. For instance, menus go to the top, bottom, left, or right of the screen, or a combination of these. Headers appear above body text. In other words, hierarchy is a simple way of staying organized from most to least important. Remember that users define the hierarchy of any app or website. The item that first grabs the user's attention is at the top of the hierarchy. The visual specifications that a designer can utilize to influence users' understanding of the information are size. The larger the element, the more attention it will attract. So if you're familiar with the HTML and web development process, you may know that we have 6 kinds of headers from H1 to H6. H1 is the largest header and H6 is the smallest one. So when we want to get so much attention, we will use H1. For instance, suppose that we want to get the user's attention to a specific section or a specific item. So in that case, we will use the larger header. Or on the other hand, Sometimes we don't want to get so much attention to a specific section or content. In that case, we can use the smaller header. So size is so important. The next item is color. Bright colors are more noticeable than muted ones. If you do not have enough information about colors, you don't have to worry about it, because in the next lessons, we will cover all the necessary information about choosing the right color in your design. The next item is alignment. An element with a different alignment of others will attract more attention. So what does that mean? Suppose that you have a layout of, let's say, 4 different videos or 4 different photos. If you align only one of those videos or those photos differently, it will draw more attention to it. As a matter of fact, in that case, the user can realize that something is different. The next item is contrast. Sharply contrasting colors will catch the eye easily. Contrast is a very important topic in UI design, and we will talk about contrast in next lessons deeply. The next item is proximity. Elements which are placed closely together appear more related, and that's true. If you look at the pictures on the right side, you can see we have 2 different screens. Let's focus on the left screen. As you can see, we have 2 different sections, new promotions and new stories. Can you realize that elements in both sections are placed closely together so that users can easily understand that they are related together? The next item is repetition. Repeating styles can indicate that content is related. So what does that mean? Let's look at the pictures on the right. Can you see that we have 4 squares and 3 circles? So the user can easily recognize the relationship between those elements. And the next item is white space, which is another important term in UI/UX design. More space between elements will draw more attention to them. So let's look at the pictures on the right, but this time we need to distinguish between the left screen and the right screen. As you can see in the left screen, we have enough space, or let's say enough white space between our elements and our sections, so the users can easily walk through the user interface. However, on the right screen, you can see that all elements are very close together, and there is not enough white space between all elements in that kind of layout. Alright, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next video.
Minute Maid Pulpy Orange.
పక్కా ఆరెంజ్ జ్యూస్ ఇంకా ఎంత పల్
Hi everyone, in this video we're going to be talking about visual noise in design. Visual noise, as you can guess from its title, is all about a screen or part of a digital product which has so much information and many elements on it. When you're designing an app or a website, you need to pay attention to details a lot, because by the end of the day, we want to design a screen which is user-friendly and easy to walk through. So make sure to eliminate all the unnecessary elements or information from your screen. If you're not sure whether your design has visual noise or not, it is recommended to ask for users' feedback. If you look at the pictures on the right side, you can see that we have 2 different screens. In the left screen, there is no visual noise, and it is great in terms of UI design. On the other hand, in the right screen, there is too much visual noise. As you can see, there are so many texts at the top, and then some items which could be videos or photos, then again some videos, and after that some stories. And you can recognize that there is not enough white space between those elements. Thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you in the next video. Hi everyone, welcome back to another lesson of this course. In this video, we're going to be talking about spacing in design. Consistency plays a key role in UI design. So when you're designing, you need to measure everything and keep it consistent. As a designer, spacing is up to you, but once you set it, you need to use the same spacing patterns in your designs. For instance, if you set the spacing between the header and body text to 8 pixels, you should always use the same spacing throughout your project. As you can see in the picture, all the spacing has been measured accurately, and it makes the design clearer. For instance, if you look at the picture, you can see that we have 50 pixels from the top to new pictures title, and then 8 pixels from new pictures to the top of subtitle, and going on and on. So in order to keep your design clear, make sure that you use consistent spacing patterns throughout your project. Hi everyone, welcome back to another video of this course. In this video, we're going to be talking about padding. Padding refers to the space between UI elements, and it can be measured both vertically and horizontally. But how should we specify the padding amount? Well, if you want to use your own padding system, you should be aware of the possible problems that can be arisen. What do I mean by that? Suppose that you want to set the padding between your elements randomly. For instance, you set the padding between your buttons to 20 pixels and between your text layers to 22 pixels. What's wrong with that? Well, remember that we design an app or a website for different screen sizes, and it may happen that our design looks great in one dimension and messy in another. So because of this reason, most designers use an 8 pixel or 8-point grid system. What does that mean? It means that we should use increments of 8 to size and space out the elements on a page. In other words, any defined height or width, margin or padding should be an increment of 8. So when we use the 8 pixel grid system, our design will be rendered perfectly in almost all devices. Sometimes you may use different spacings based on your need, but remember to keep it consistent throughout your project. Alright guys, that's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next video. So see you then. Hi everyone. In this video we're going to be talking about composition in design. What is the golden ratio? The golden ratio is a mathematical proportion between the elements of different sizes, which is thought to be the most aesthetically pleasing proportion for human eyes. The golden ratio equals 1 to 1.618, and it's usually illustrated with seashell-shaped spirals. This number was used in creating proportions for architecture, paintings, photography, design, etc. But how to use the golden ratio in your design? If you have a screen with the width of 1200 pixels, you need to divide it by 1.618, and the result will be 741.6. And now we can say 1200 pixels minus 741 equals to 459. So we have two sections with the width of 741 pixels and 459 pixels. As you can see on the right side of screen, here we have a screenshot of the Medium website. Can you see how it has been designed based on the golden ratio so it can get the user's attention to the right place at the right time? In this video, we're going to talk about design guide. What is a design guide? A design guide is a system that can help you to keep your design consistent. It can also accelerate your design process. The examples you're looking at are only a few components that can be used in your design guide. There are lots of things that can be included in your design guide, such as UI elements, typography, iconography, sizing and spacing, color palettes, etc. So having a design guide makes your life much easier.
Give a gift from USPX. It's love, no says PS. Baby, don't need a battery. Use a Saturday, any day. hello. What's the shiny object down below? You don't understand cause I'm your beau, but you're curious to give it.
Hey everyone! In this video, we're going to be talking about colors. Applying colors to your UI elements is one of the most crucial parts of the UI design process. Do you remember what was playing a key role in UI designing? You're right, consistency. So you need to keep your colors consistent as well. For instance, if you apply blue to titles on one page, you need to apply the same color to titles on other pages. Or if you apply red to a purchase button, you should use the same color for any other purchase buttons on other pages. This is why we need a design guide and a style guide. If you look at the picture on your right, you can see that we used a specific black color for titles and we use a specific color for our buttons, etc. So it is so important to keep your colors consistent. Hi everyone! In this lesson, we're going to be talking about color palette. Creating a color scheme for a product might seem like a hard task, especially if you are a beginner. However, in reality, it's not as complicated as many designers think. What is a color scheme? UI color scheme is a mixture of colors used in your user interface. Almost every color scheme contains the following groups of colors: primary colors, secondary colors, accent colors, neutrals, semantic colors. What are the primary and secondary colors? Primary and secondary colors are the base colors of your user interface. The colors which are used most frequently in your UI design are called primary colors. Most designers usually choose brand colors as primary colors. As a matter of fact, it's recommended to have no more than 3 primary colors. Optionally, you can use secondary colors in order to distinguish your products and make more interesting UI designs. Alright, but how to choose colors properly? When you're working with colors, you should not create a combination of random colors because the result would not be the one you expect. In order to understand how to work with colors, first you need to know what the color wheel is and how it works. Here are important color combinations you need to know. Complementary, which are 2 colors that are on opposite sides of the color wheel. And the next one is monochromatic, which are 3 shades, tones, and tints of one base color. And the last one is analogous, which are 3 colors that are side by side on the color wheel. If you look at the right side of the picture, you can see that we have a color wheel here. As you can see, we have monochromatic. For example, if you look at the red, we have 3 different shades, or let's say tints of one base color. And also we have complementary. For instance, here we have purple and yellow, which are on opposite sides of the color wheel. So the combination of these colors is great. Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to be talking about color contrast, which is a very important topic when it comes to UI design. Applying colors effectively is a skill that everyone who works with visual compositions must have. So you as a UI designer need to know how to use colors in your projects. When it comes to applying colors, readability and legibility are the key factors. Researchers have shown that vibrant colors enable enough of contrast, helping to increase readability and legibility. Please take into consideration that too much color contrast may cause difficulty in reading. I highly recommend that designers should create a mid-level of contrast, and for highlighting elements, they can use high contrasting colors. You can also use websites to provide you with a ratio when comparing 2 colors to see whether there is enough contrast or not. If you look at the examples on the right, we have 6 different colors. As you can see, the first 4 are acceptable and have enough contrast, but the others are not readable. So when we are designing a user interface, we need to pay attention to colors a lot, because sometimes you as a designer want to be as creative as possible. However, creativity should come after readability and legibility.
Hi everyone, in this lesson we're going to be talking about color resources. Now it's time to look for our colors in order to use them in our projects. Most of the time finding good colors is a difficult task for UI designers, especially if you are a beginner. Here are some absolutely useful resources for finding colors. Number 1, Color Hunt. Number 2, Adobe Color, which is so useful by the way. Number 3, I don't know how to pronounce it, but I think it's Coolers or Colors. Number 4, Web Gradients, which is another good website for finding gradients if you're looking for them. Make sure to spend enough time finding the best possible color palette for your projects. Hi everyone. In this video, we're going to be talking about consistency of UI elements. One of the things that you always work with while you're designing a user interface is a UI element. What are the UI elements? Buttons, cards, text fields, sliders, dialogues, charts, steps, tables, selection controls, menus, snack bars, etc. As you can see in the picture, I chose only some of them for you because certainly I could not put all of them here. However, you will learn about almost all of them in the UI elements chapter.
How to get the most of Grammarly free.
It's Kayla on behalf of Grammarly to tell you all about.
Hi, in this video, we're going to be talking about iconography in design. Iconography is a visual language used to demonstrate aspects, content, or functionality. Icons are meant to be simple and clear, visual elements that are recognizable immediately. You do not have to redesign well-known icons such as home icon, search icon, etc. Or let's say, do not reinvent the wheel. You can get access to almost all kinds of icons on websites for free or at reasonable costs. But what if you needed to design some icons specifically for your project? Well, in that case, you should design icons which are in harmony with your design and other icons. Keep in mind that icons need to be understood easily by users, so make sure to show consistency in your design. Hello everyone. In this video, we're going to be talking about icons in design. You may think that working with icons is an easy part of the UI design. However, if you do not pay attention to details, you will not get an appropriate result. Here are some important points that you need to take care of. Number 1, test scalability. Check if your icons can still be recognized at small sizes, such as 15 by 15 pixels. Number 2, properly sized. The recommended target size for touchscreen objects is 7 to 10 millimeters. Also remember to add padding between icons to prevent incorrect taps. Number 3, internal consistency. Use the same color scheme for all icons and also the same styling attributes, such as the size of borders. Number 4, perfect alignment. Always try to have perfect alignment in iconography, but sometimes, because you have icons with different sizes, you need to balance them by yourself. If you look at the picture on your right, you can see that we have two different groups of icons. In the left group, you can see that we have consistent iconography because we only use outline icons. But on the other hand, we have inconsistent iconography because we use both outline and solid icons at the same time, which is not recommended. Hey everyone, in this video we are going to be talking about icon resources for your design project. As mentioned before, iconography is an essential part of the UI design process, and it is so important to know where you can find engaging and standard icons. Here are some useful resources for finding icons. Number 1, flat icon, which you can find paid or free icons there. Number 2, Icon Finder, which is another good website for finding
icons. And last but not least, Nucleo, which is an application and it gathers all the icons for you in one place. Remember that you should use the icons which are easy to recognize by users. So take your time and check out all the available icons that you may want to use in your project. Hi, in this video, we are going to talk about typography. What is typography? Typography transforms language into a decorative visual element. Typography is one of the most important parts of UI/UX design, so it is worth your time to learn more about it. When you're designing an app or a website, limit the number of typefaces and sizes you use in order to keep your design simple. Start with 2 fonts at most, one for the headers and the other for the bodies. You can use free or paid fonts in your projects, but I highly recommend using free fonts. If you would like to use paid fonts, check the license carefully. You should inform your clients that they need to pay extra for using paid fonts. Now if you look at the right side of the screen, you can see that I classified the typography foundation for you. Let's check it out step by step. Right at the top, we have properties. Every text line in any program has a baseline. As you can see, it is indicated here with the blue line. And also, it has the letter spacing that you can modify it in your design. Of course, there are more properties related to typography. However, for proceeding this course, it is enough to know these 2 properties. Now let's focus on letter spacing comparison. On the left, you can see we have the default spacing. But on the right, I modified the spacing of those letters. Depending on what kind of project you're working on, you can modify the letter spacing as you wish. Now let's talk about the weight of each font. Most fonts have at least 3 different weights, but some of them have more. For instance, a font can have 6 different weights. As you can see on your screen, we have here from light to bold. And last but not least, the classification of fonts. As you can see, we have 2 different classifications for fonts. The serif, which is the left one in the picture, and the sans serif, which is the right one in the picture. So what is the difference? For sure you can distinguish between them, but let me explain to you in order to memorize the rule of serif and sans serif. Actually, serif fonts have some kind of flat line at the top of them and also the bottom of them. Or you can say they have feet. On the other hand, sans serif fonts do not have these kind of lines. Sans in English and French means without. So sans serif means without serif. You as a designer are responsible for choosing the best weight of fonts and also the best classification depending on what kind of project you are working on. Thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you in the next video. Hi everyone. In this lesson, we're going to be talking about fonts in design. As a designer, you always work with different fonts, so you need to know how to use them properly. As it was mentioned in the typography section, it is recommended to work with 2 different fonts at most to keep your UI simple. What are the best fonts for UI design? Number 1, San Francisco. It is best for modern websites and mobile apps. Number 2, Open Sans. It is best for websites and mobile apps. Number 3, Montserrat. It is best for minimal websites and mobile apps. Number 4, Proxima Nova. It is great for modern content-centric websites and mobile apps. And last but not least, Roboto. It is best for modern websites and mobile apps as well. Hey everyone. In this video, we're going to be talking about font resources. Sometimes choosing the right fonts for your project could be tricky and time consuming. So in this part, you're going to know about the best online resources to get your fonts easily. The first website is called Google Fonts, which is so famous and you can find free fonts there. The second website is called My Fonts, and you can find free and paid fonts there. And last but not least, you can check out the Adobe Fonts website, which you can find paid fonts. Having troubles with pairing fonts, you can also use TypeWolf or FontPair. Hi everyone, welcome back to another section of this course. In this topic, we're going to be talking about UI elements, which are so important when you're designing a user interface. In the next series of videos, we are going to talk about text fields, buttons, sliders, cards, dialogues, or even steppers and charts. So if you are confused about all those elements, I suggest you watching this section. So see you in the next series of videos. Hey everyone, welcome back to another video of this module. In this video, we're going to be talking about text fields. As you may know, text fields are UI elements which allow users to enter a text into a UI. They usually appear in dialogues and forms. Almost every mobile apps and also websites use at least one kind of text fields. For instance, you can use them for entering dates, names, time, etc. As a UI designer, you need to know the anatomy of a text field as described in the picture. You may find different kinds of text fields on different platforms. So it is recommended to know about the standard UI elements that a specific operating system uses. If you look at the picture on the right, you can see that we have the anatomy of a text field. As you can see, we have label, we have the input text, we have the trailing icon, which is optional. As you can see, it's number 3. Also, we have activation indicator. Sometimes you may use voice input icon or even a drop down icon. And at the end, you can see that we design different states of a text field. For example, if the user enters the password incorrectly, the text field's color may change to something else, for instance, red. Hey everyone, in this video, we're going to be talking about buttons in design. Buttons let users take actions. So whenever a user needs to do something, buttons come into play. I think now you understand how important it is to know about button designing. When you're designing a button, make sure to pay attention to the following points. Number 1, states. Design all states of the button, such as active, inactive, tapped, hover, etc. Number 2, hierarchy. Know about the hierarchy of your buttons. For instance, whether it's high emphasis, medium emphasis, or low emphasis. Number 3, placement. Multiple button types can be utilized to represent various emphasis levels. Number 4, text button. Text buttons are typically used for less pronounced actions. For example, in dialogues and cards. And last but not least, contrast. Buttons should have enough contrast to express the importance of their functionality. So if you look at the picture on the right, you can see that we have different states of a button. For instance, we have active. As you can see, it has a sharp color and the opacity is 100%. On the other hand, we have inactive to show that this button is disabled for now, which is gray here. And also we have tapped. So when the user taps that button, it changes to that specific color. As you can see, we have that light blue. And at the end, as you can see, we have 4 different buttons. We have text button, also we have outline button, and then contain button, and also toggle button. And you need to use them carefully when you're designing a user interface, because it is so important to know the user's expectation, and also in terms of user experience, it's better to use the correct type of button in your design. Hey everyone, in this video, we are going to talk about sliders in design. Sliders allow users to make selections from a range of values. They are ideal for adjusting settings such as brightness, volume, etc. Sliders can have icons
on both sides of the bar. When you're designing a slider, make sure to pay attention to the following things. Number 1, states. Design all states of the slider, such as enable, disable, tapped, hover, etc., just like buttons. Number 2, adjusting. Sliders should only be used for choosing selections from a range of values. Number 4, quickness. Sliders should react immediately, so changes must be instantaneous. And last but not least, accessibility. Sliders should provide the whole range of choices available to the user to select from. If you look at the picture on the right side, you can see that we have two different sliders. The first one is continuous slider. And as you can see, in this kind of slider, you can modify it continuously and without any interruption. On the other hand, in the second type of sliders, which is discrete slider, you cannot modify it without any interruption. There are some fixed points that the user can choose from. Hey everyone, in this video we're going to be talking about tooltips in design. Tooltips are for displaying informative text when users hover over, focus on, or tap an element. When you're designing a tooltip, make sure to pay attention to the following things. Number 1, conciseness. Tooltips should only display a brief text. Don't add an image or detailed information. Number 2, pairing. Tooltips are always paired nearby the element with which they are associated. And last but not least, transitory. Tooltips appear on hover, focus, or touch, and disappear after short duration. The recommended time is 1.5 seconds. As you can see on the right side, we have a tooltip which shows informative text. We have a shortcut for bold, and also we have additional information here, save, for confirm button. So make sure to use them properly. Hi everyone. In this video, we're going to be talking about selection controls. Selection controls allow users to easily select between different options. It's useful for declaring preferences such as settings. When you're designing a selection control, make sure to pay attention to the following points. Number 1, familiarity. Selection controls have been used in UI design for a long time and should be utilized as expected. Number 2, efficiency. Selection controls let users easily compare two or more options. And last but not least, scannable. Selection controls should appear in a way that users can recognize them at a glance. Selected items should be visually distinguishable from unselected items. As you can see on the right side of the screen, we have 3 different selection controls. The first one is switches. It's useful for toggling a single option on or off, and it is so popular. The next one is radio buttons. They are useful for selecting a single option from a list. And the last one is checkbox, and it's useful for selecting one or multiple items from a list. So make sure to use them in a right way. Hey everyone, in this video we're going to be talking about chips. Chips allow users to make selections, trigger actions, enter information, etc. Unlike buttons, which should be a consistent call to action, chips should appear dynamically as a group of multiple interactive elements. When you're designing a chip, make sure to pay attention to the following things. Number 1, states. Just like buttons and sliders, you need to design all states of your chips, such as enable, disable, tapped, hover, etc. Number 2, relevancy. Chips should have a helpful relationship with the content or task they represent. And the last one, compactness. Chips are compact elements that represent distinct information. If you look at the picture on the right side, you can see that we have different chips. Some of them have icons or even an image. On the other hand, some of them only have a text. So make sure to use them in your UI design carefully. Hey everyone, in this video we're going to be talking about cards in user interface design. Cards are containers that display content and actions on a single subject. They must be easy to scan and elements such as images or text should be placed on them in a way that certainly indicates the hierarchy. When you're designing cards, make sure to pay attention to the following things. Number 1. Individual. A card cannot be divided into multiple cards. You should not merge a card with another one. Number 2. Independence. A card doesn't need to rely on its surrounding elements. It can stand alone. And last but not least, components. A card can optionally have rich media such as images or videos, text, buttons, icons, and thumbnails. Nowadays, most designers use cards in their UI design. So if you want to use them as well, make sure to use them carefully. Hi everyone! In this video, we're going to be talking about dialogues. Dialogues inform users about critical information or even tasks. They also ask users to make a decision or choose between different options. For example, dialogues can be used for asking for permission or even choosing from a range of different variables on a slider and so much more. When you're designing dialogues, make sure to pay attention to the following things. Number 1. Hierarchy. A dialogue has the highest hierarchy and it blocks the app usage until the user takes a dialogue action. Number 2. Visibility. A dialogue must be recognizable easily, so I recommend adding a dark overlay to the view and putting the dialogue on top of that. Number 3. Straightforward. A dialogue should convey the message in an understandable and clear way. And lastly, buttons. I recommend using side-by-side buttons on a dialogue, as you can see in the picture.
చిల్లవు స్కాన్ చెయ్యి ఆపై గెలుచుకో 10,000 వౌచర్ లేదా 10 రూపాయల క్యాష్ బ్యాక్.
The uniqueness of the Faculty of Education is that research directly impacts on our teaching and learning programs. Our aim is to make society as a whole better through world-changing research and teaching.
Hey everyone! In this video, we're going to be talking about lists. Lists are a continuous group of images or texts. They are composed of items including primary and secondary actions, which are represented by icons and text. When you're designing lists, make sure to pay attention to the following points. Number 1. Consistency. Lists must present icons, text, and actions in a consistent format. Number 2. Action. Lists show content in a way that makes it easy to recognize a specific item in a collection and act on it. And last but not least, scannable. Lists should be classified in logical ways that make content easy to scan. As you can see on the right side of the screen, we have different kind of lists. For instance, here we have your contacts. As you can see, it's composed of images and text, and also it has an icon. Hey everyone! In this video, we're going to be talking about tables. Tables are containers that show users different records, such as products, prices, status, dates, etc. A data table contains a header row at the top that lists column names followed by rows for data. They are usually scrollable and easy to scan. So if you need to populate some data which are sortable and follow the same pattern, you can use tables. When you're designing tables, make sure to pay attention to the following things. Number 1. Expandable. Rows in a table can be expandable in order to allow the user to evaluate additional information without losing its context. Number 2. Pagination. Pagination works by presenting a set of numbers in a view with the ability to navigate to another set. And lastly, fixed headers. Fixing the row header while a user scrolls through a table helps the user to know about the column name. Hey everyone! In this video, we're going to be talking about navigation. Navigation is the act of moving between screens of an app to complete tasks. For instance, you can navigate from Explore page of an app to the Profile page. There are different types of navigation. Number 1. Lateral. It refers to moving between screens at the same level of hierarchy.
The main app's navigation component should provide access to all destinations at the top level of its hierarchy. Number 2, forward. It refers to moving between screens at consecutive levels of hierarchy. And last but not least, reverse. It refers to moving backward through screens, either hierarchically within an app or chronologically within one app or across different apps. Hi everyone! In this video, we're going to be talking about menus in user interface design. A menu displays a list of choices on a provisional surface. It appears when users interact with a button, action, or other kinds of controls. Menus allow users to make a selection from multiple options. Unlike selection controls, menus are less outstanding and take less space. When you're designing menus, make sure to pay attention to the following points. Number 1, scannable. Menu options should be easy to scan. Number 2, quick. Menus should be easy to open, close, and interact with. And last but not least, placement. Menus appear in front of all other UI elements. Hello everyone! In this video, we're going to be talking about charts. Charts help users to compare values in a visualized way. When it comes to comparing many values, it's much easier to look at charts rather than numbers in a grid. When you're designing charts, make sure to pay attention to the following things. Number 1, visibility. Visibility of a chart is so important because sometimes you have a chart with very small details. Number 2, consistency. Place your charts on a card in order to keep your design clean and consistent. And lastly, margins. Make sure that there is enough white space between your charts and other elements. Later on in this course, you will learn how to create charts and how to use them in your projects. Hi everyone! In this video, we're going to be talking about steppers. Steppers show progress through a sequence of logical and numbered steps. Sometimes you may use them for navigation. Steppers may display a temporary feedback message after a step is saved. Using steppers could help users to avoid losing their focus when they need to fill up forms or take some action. When you're designing steppers, make sure to pay attention to the following things. Number 1, sections. Do not embed steppers into other steppers or use multiple steppers on one page. Number 2, types. Generally, there are 2 types of steps: editable steps and non-editable steps. We have horizontal steppers and vertical steppers. And lastly, feedback. You can optionally design transient feedback to show the users the progression. You should only use feedback whenever there is a line latency between steps. Hi everyone! In this video, we're going to be talking about snack bars. Snack bars provide concise feedback about an operation through a message at the bottom of the screen. They should contain a single line of text directly related to the operation performed. They may contain a button as well. When you're designing snack bars, make sure to pay attention to the following points. Number 1, it should be brief. Snack bars should only display brief information about an operation and not detailed information. Number 2, transient. Snack bars automatically time out from the screen, so they should disappear quickly. And last but not least, hierarchy. If the action is important enough to block the app usage, you can use dialogues instead of snack bars. In snack bars, only use one button if it's needed, and not more. As you can see on the right side of the screen, we have 2 different examples. The first group of snack bars are designed perfectly because it doesn't have more than one button, and the colors that have been used are great. However, on the other hand, the second group of our snack bars has 2 buttons, which is not ideal for snack bars, and also it used an icon in addition to the text.
Do you feel trapped in your own mind as if your negative thoughts are holding you in prison?
Okay, so for the inner circle, we're gonna have an 18 by 18 pixel circle like this. And I'm gonna change the
So what is ClickUp? ClickUp is an all-in-one productivity software where you can manage everything and anything related.
Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. In this video, we're going to be talking about the newest feature of Figma, which is called Auto Layout. The Auto Layout feature has been added to Figma recently, and it's a super powerful feature, and I'm going to show you how you could use that in order to accelerate your design process and make your life much easier. So without further ado, let's get started. First of all, I'm going to go ahead and create a button. So to do that, I'm going to need a rectangle. So let's create one. There we go. I'm going to set the width to 300 and the height to 70. Nice. Then let's increase the corner radius to 16. And as you can see now, those little circles do not appear here because I'm far away from this button. However, if I zoom a little bit, these circles would appear. All right, now let's change the color to light purple like this. Nice. Then we need the text, obviously. So I'm gonna write login and let's change the color to white. And I'm gonna increase the font size to 24, pretty good. Let's select both layers and align them both horizontally and vertically, pretty good. I'm gonna make it a little bit smaller. Now it's better. So let's group them and call it login, pretty good. And everything is fine now. But suppose that you create this button, you decide to duplicate that and change the text to something else. For instance, you want to change it to get started. And can you see that what's the problem here? So our buttons are not responsive. And previously we needed to customize our buttons separately like this. We needed to resize them manually. And again, we had to align them like this. However, now with the help of Auto Layout, everything will be done in a second. So let me show you how you could do that. First of all, I'm going to duplicate this login button once again. There we go. And as you can see in the inspector, a new section has been added, which is called Auto Layout. And you can either click on this plus button to add Auto Layout to your button, or you could hold Shift and A, and that's all. Alternatively, you could right click here and choose Add Auto Layout. All work the same. So as you can see, nothing has been changed here. But if you try to change this text to, for instance, get started, you can see that what's the difference here. Now our button is responsive. That's super cool. And you can also customize the horizontal padding, the vertical padding, and the spacing between items. However, because we have only one item here, we can't use this section. You can change the mode from horizontal to vertical, but you can see the difference here. However, if you're trying to create a list, you can use vertical. And we have different options as well for the height. So as you can see here, we have auto height. So if I try to add some lines like this, the height size will automatically increase, okay? But if I try to change it to fixed height and then I add some lines, you can see that it's not responsive anymore. So you can easily customize the options that you have. Here, this is the horizontal padding. You can change it easily like this. If you're familiar with CSS, it works exactly the same. And also the vertical padding. That is pretty awesome. Now let's try something else. Let's create another rectangle here. And I'm gonna set it to 450 by 80. Nice. Let's increase the corner radius to 24 and change the color to this light purple. Okay. Let's suppose that this is our tab bar. And we are going to add some icons or just simple shapes. So I'm going to create a rectangle like this, and it's going to be 45 by 45. Let's change its color to white. Pretty awesome. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and then I'm going to create another shape such as a circle, and I'm going to set it to 45 by 45 as well. Let's change the color to white. And lastly, I'm gonna duplicate this square and increase the corner radius like this, and I'm gonna rotate it by 45 degrees. Okay, then let's select
select all our shapes and click on distribute horizontal spacing to get the same spacing between our shapes. And I'm going to set it to 91. Then let's group them and select our tab bar and align it to the center, both horizontally and vertically. However, you need to remember, because we are going to make these shapes responsive, we need to ungroup them after alignment. So I'm going to right click here, ungroup them, and select the tab bar, which is our background here, like this. And once again group them, and I'm going to call it tab bar. Okay. Then let's press Shift A in order to add auto layout to this group, and everything is done. So how can we check it out? The easiest way is to try to remove one of these shapes. So I'm going to remove this circle, and there we go. Our tab bar is responsive now. You could even add more objects and the size would automatically change. So I'm going to duplicate it, and as you can see, it's perfectly working. That's pretty awesome. You could also change their place easily, like this. That is fantastic. Alright, now we are going to create a more complex auto layout group. So what do you think if we could create a responsive card? That would be nice. So let's go ahead and create a new rectangle right here. And I'm going to increase the radius to 40. And let's change the dimensions to 300 by 400. Nice. And I'm going to change the color to white. And let's add stroke to it with the same light purple that we have here. And then I'm going to add some details to it. Suppose that we are going to have a profile image. So we need a circle here. Let's set it to 70 by 70. And I'm going to change the color to this purple. Pretty good. And as you can see, the top padding is set to 30. Let's set the left padding to 30 as well. Then I'm going to add some text. So I need to have name. Let's make it smaller. I think 18 points would be nice. I'm going to change the color to this purple as well. Duplicate that. And here I'm going to write surname. Pretty good. And the left padding is going to be 16 pixels, like this. Then I'm going to add another text, which is the description. For instance, let's write, hello everyone. In this video, we are talking about auto layout in Figma, okay? And I think it's better to make it a fixed size text layer, like this. And I'm going to change the auto height to 24. Pretty awesome. And let's make this card a little bit smaller for now. The top padding is going to be 30. So we need to have 30 to the top for this text and 30 to the bottom. So as you can see, I have 27 and I need to add 3 more. So I can go to height and here I'm going to write +3. There we go. Let's make it larger a little bit. Fantastic. Now, how can we make this card responsive? We need to use another technique here, because if we just group them, let me show you, and press Shift and A, it's not going to work and everything is going to be disorganized. So we need to use another way. In this case, we need to have 2 different groups with auto layout. So first we need to create a horizontal auto layout for this profile image placeholder and these 2 texts. So I'm going to select them and group them. Let's name it user. And now as you can see, we have 2 objects here that are placed vertically. So if I select my rectangle and also this user and this text and group them and call it card, now I can add auto layout perfectly. So I'm going to press Shift and A. And as you can see, I just created a vertical auto layout. But we need to create a horizontal auto layout for our user as well. So now we need to group this name and surname as well in order to use a horizontal auto layout for these 2 objects as well. So now I'm going to choose the user group and press Shift and A. And as you can see, we just created a horizontal auto layout. Okay. Then I'm going to select my main card and press Shift and A once again. And as you can see, I just created a vertical auto layout. So I'm going to open it up and I'm going to set the alignment of user to the left and everything is done. So let's give it a try. I'm going to extend this text a little bit to see what's going to happen. Let's see whether it works or not. And yes, as you can see, it works perfectly. So let's write yes, it works perfectly. That's pretty cool. So if you just try to add some lines, you can see that it increases the height size automatically. But what about for this auto layout group? So if I try to change the name to something else, like Mike, and the surname to, I don't know, White, as you can see, nothing happens because it's not that long. So I'm gonna add some random characters here, and as you can see, it works. However, my description text moves along, so I need to fix that issue. In order to fix that, I'm gonna select it, and as you can see, it has been aligned to the center. So I'm gonna align it to the left, and now everything is great. So let's try something here. I'm gonna copy and paste it. There we go, it works perfectly. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next video. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video of this course. In this video, we're going to be talking about images. As a UI/UX designer, you work with images all the time, and it's so important to know how you could use unique features of Figma in order to use your images properly. So without further ado, let's get started. As you can see, I have created a simple project here with just 5 circles and 3 squares, and we are going to add images to these circles and also these cards. There are plenty of ways that you could do that. The first one is to just drag and drop your images, and then you will use the mask option, which we will cover in the future lessons. However, there are better ways to do that. So first, make sure to download the assets file that I already prepared for you, and it consists of some images for these cards and some images for these circles. So the first way is to go to shapes, and here we have place image. And if you have downloaded the assets file, you could see that you have 2 different folders, profile and cards. In profile folder, you could see 5 different images, and I'm going to select all of them and click on open. Pretty good. Right at the top, you have 2 options, place all, discard all. If you click place all of your images will be placed at once, like this. As you can see, you have all of your images, okay? And again, you need to go ahead and use masks in order to put it on those circles, okay? So once again, I'm gonna open those images. And if you click on discard all here, nothing happens. You need to select once again. As you can see, there is a red badge on the top left corner of your images, which indicates the number of images that you have left. So for instance, here we have 5. If I click here, you can see that my first image will be inserted to the canvas. And now I have 4. So I can go ahead and insert all of them. So let me select them once again. In the previous way, you could place your images with their own dimensions, okay? However, if you want to change the dimension, you can easily drag and drop like this. And there we go. You can set the dimension as you want. All right. And the last time, we are going to place these images in our circles. And it's so easy to do that. If you hover your mouse on top of these circles and click, you can see that it's so easy to insert your image in those circles, like this. And that's all. The next way you can insert an image in Figma is to use the fill section. So I'm gonna hold Command key and I'm gonna select this card. And here in fill, if I open this drop menu, you can see that you have image option. And you can choose your image like this. You can also change the exposure of your image, the contrast, the saturation, temperature, tint, highlights, and shadows right here. Okay, you can even rotate it if you want. All right, now we are going to add images to our cards. So let's go ahead and choose place image. And here I'm gonna open up cards. And as you can see, there are 3 different images here. I'm gonna select all of them. Click on open. You need to remember something. If your image is so large, Figma will resize it automatically before you could insert it to Figma. So you need to be aware of this issue as well. Like this. And that's done. Did you see how easy it is to use images in Figma? You could also edit these cards easily like this. There we go. Everything is responsive. That's pretty cool, isn't it? The good news is that unlike other softwares and platforms, in Figma you could insert a GIF file as well. So let's give it a try. So now if I preview this artboard by clicking on this play button, you can see that these images are static. Okay, so what if I add a GIF file to one of these cards? For instance, this one, I'm gonna go ahead and place an image from GIF folder. There we go. Now as you can see, it's like other normal pictures. However, if I try to preview that,
the advanced Grand Vitara with strong hybrid technology. Enjoy the best of both worlds with dual powertrain. Get a range of over 1200 kilometers in a full tank.
Expand your business and stay ahead. Use real-time data to forecast delivery routes. With AWS, businesses can push the boundaries of innovation.
you can see that it's actually different from other pictures because it's a GIF file and it plays in Figma, which is pretty awesome. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it and I will see you in the next video. Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. In this video, we're going to be talking about the fill section. So without further ado, let's get started with inserting a new shape here. I'm going to create a rectangle. Let's increase the corner radius like this. And on your right in the inspector section, you can see the fill section, okay? And here you could choose your desired color for your object or even your text layer, okay? Like this. For instance, now we choose red, okay? And this red color has a value. The brightness of each color is called its value. And as you can see, if we add white to this color, it gets lighter. And if we add black to this color, it gets darker and darker. You can also use the eyedropper for choosing your color like this. And you can also choose your color with the hex code here, okay? You can set it to RGB, CSS, HSL, and HSB. But most of the time we use hex code. Sometimes we need to change the opacity of each color. In that case, you could use this slider like this. And as you can see, now it gets transparent. Or you could use this percentage here, like 20%, pretty good. And right at the bottom, you could see your document colors. As you can see, we don't have any document colors because we haven't created one yet. However, in the futures lessons, we will talk about it. Right at the top left, you could see a drop menu. Okay, if I open it, you can see that you have plenty of options. The first one is solid. And as you can see, you could only choose a single and base color. Okay, if you want to use a gradient, you could choose linear like this. And for instance, I can choose the second color here. However, it's set to transparent. I can increase the opacity to 100%. And with these controllers, you can change the direction of your gradient like this. You could even add more colors to your gradient. If you click here like this, I can choose this color as well. Pretty awesome. The other option that you have is radial gradient, okay? You have also angular, like this, and then we have diamond, like this, and image, that I already talked about. However, the two most important options are solid and linear, okay? You could also change the opacity of your color or gradient here, like this, and you can hide it if you want or remove it. And here you can change your color mode from normal to color, saturation, hue, difference. We will talk about these options later. However, if you want to see what's going to happen if you change it, we need another object. So I'm gonna create a new rectangle like this. And let's set its color to something like this blue. And I'm going to change the color mode to color like this. You can see the difference here. I can set it to overlay like this, screen, etc.
Alright guys, that's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching it. I hope you enjoyed it and I will see you in the next video. Hi everyone, welcome back to another video of this course. In this video, we're going to be talking about the stroke section. So first of all, let me create a new shape. This time I'm going to choose a circle like this, and right under the fill section that we have talked about in the previous video, we have the stroke section, and I'm going to click on this plus button in order to add the stroke to my shape. And here we have different properties such as color. Again, you have all those options. Like in the fill, you have the thickness of your stroke that you can change here, and you have the positioning property here as well that you can change it from inside to center and to outside. So basically it means that this stroke applies to the outside of your shape, and this one, it means that this stroke applies to the inside of your shape. And here you have the advanced option, and we already talked about it. You have round, square, line arrow, and triangle arrow. However, it doesn't work here because we need to have a line or a path in order to use these options. You could also make it dash. For example, I can write 2,5 like this, or let's say 10. I can easily change it here. 40, that's pretty cool. And of course you can hide it or remove it. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next video.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to another video of this course. In this video, we're going to be talking about the effects section. As a matter of fact, we use the effects section so many times when we are designing a user interface. For instance, there are times that you want to add some shadows to your object or even to your text, or probably you want to add a blur effect to your object or to your background. In these cases, we can use the effects section. So without further ado, let's get started. As you can see here, I have created a simple square and I changed its color to this hex color code, okay? 00, 38 and FF. Now I'm gonna add some drop shadow to it, okay? So let's go to effects section and I'm gonna click on this plus button, and here you have a drop menu. You have inner shadow, and as you can see, this option will add some shadows inside of your object. If you want to modify your shadow, you can click on the sun icon, and here you have the advanced options. You have the blur amount, now it's set to 4. I'm going to change it to 100, and as you can see, changes apply immediately. You could also change the x-axis. Let's set it to 20, and this one to 10. Of course, you cannot see the changes here because it's actually inside our object. However, we will try these options for drop shadows as well. The next option you have is the color of your shadow. You can easily change it to any color you want, and the opacity is set to 25% by default. If you want to change it, you could of course increase it or decrease it like this. You have also the mode menus here, pretty awesome. Let's change the type of shadow to drop shadow, okay? And most of the time we use drop shadow when we are designing a user interface. So now let's go and change this color to black, and I'm gonna set it to 25%, pretty awesome. And then let's change the blur to 40 and the X to 0 and the Y to 20. If you want to get a very good drop shadow, you can calculate your numbers like me. For instance, if you set the blur to 40, you could divide it by 2 and set that number as the Y amount, like here. And then I'm going to change the opacity to 20%, like this. Pretty nice, isn't it? As you can see, it looks pretty good. However, I'm gonna suggest you something. In order to make your shadow more realistic, it's a good idea to choose the same color for your shadow as your object's color, like this, okay? And then decrease the opacity to, for instance, 15% or even 10%. It's totally up to you. However, it makes more sense because actually colorful objects don't have black shadows, okay? So if I duplicate this square and I change this color to, for example, something like this, okay? I can change the shadow to the same color and decrease it to 10% or 15% like this. Can you see the slight difference here? It makes it more realistic. Alright, so now let's go ahead and talk about other options as well. As you can see here, you have layer blur and background blur. So if I choose layer blur, as you can see, it blurs my selected layer, okay? And I can change the amount here like this. Pretty awesome. I'm gonna set it to 10, and you have the background blur as well. But as you can see, when I choose that, nothing happens because I don't have anything behind this shape. So if I want to see the effect of the background blur, I need to have something behind it. So let's go ahead and choose this square, and I'm gonna place an image in that. So let's choose this one. Pretty good. Then I'm gonna put this square on top of my image like this, and here, as you can see, the background blur is selected, but you cannot see anything because when you're using the background blur, you need to decrease the opacity of your fill in order to see the changes, not the opacity of your layer. If I change it to 50, you can see that nothing happens, but if I change the opacity of my color to 50%, you can see the effect. And now I'm going to change the color as well to something else like this, and let's decrease it to 30%, and I'm gonna change the blur amount to 20%, and that is fantastic. So let me remove this layer and then add a circle here like this, make it black, and then add background blur to it, and let's decrease the opacity to 30%, and I'm gonna set the blur amount to 50, and now you can clearly see the effect. You can also add the effects to the text layers. So if I create a text layer here, let's write hello. You can see that I can add the drop shadow, the inner shadow, the layer blur, and also the background blur as well, like this. Alright guys, that's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next video. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video of this course. In this video, we're going to be talking about the color styles. So just like text style, you could create your own color style. So first of all, let's go ahead and create a rectangle here, and I'm going to increase the corner radius to 40 like this. Then let's set the solid color to something like this blue, pretty nice, and I'm going to duplicate it, and then let's change the opacity to 75%. Once again, duplicate it, and this time I'm going to change it to 50%, and again I'm going to duplicate it, and now let's change it to 25%. Okay, so I just created 4 different colors with the same base color, however with 4 different values. As you can see, it gets lighter and lighter, so I'm going to select them, duplicate them, and here I'm going to choose another color as well. I think this one is great, so let's copy and paste this hex color code for the others like this. Okay, but how can you create your own color style? It's so easy. Just like text styles, first you need to select your object or your layer, and then here you can click on these 4 dots, and here you can click on this plus icon, which creates your color style. So I'm gonna write primary/purple because it looks like a purple color. So I'm gonna write primary/purple, and let's click on create style. Pretty good. Then I'm gonna choose this one, and let's do the same thing for this. And this time let's write secondary/pink. And for this one, I can say primary purple 75% like this. And this one primary purple 50%, and so on. Alright, so as you can see here, you have different color styles. You have primary purple, you have secondary pink, primary purple 75%, and so on. So how can you apply these color styles to your shapes or your objects? It's so simple. So first of all, let's create a new shape. Let's create a circle here like this. And in order to apply your color style, you can click on these 4 dots, and here you can get access to your color styles. Here you have primary, Here you have secondary. We created 4 different primary colors and only 1 secondary. And we will dive into creating your own design system in its own section in this course. So now I can choose primary purple, and that's all. I can duplicate it, and here I can change it to secondary pink. Or if you want to change some properties of this shape, you can detach it from its style by clicking on this icon like this, and you can freely change the color. Just like color styles, you can also create styles for effects or for a stroke. Okay, so if you click on these 4 dots, you can create an effect style or a stroke style. So what are the advantages of using color styles in your projects? Just like text styles, creating your color styles is gonna save you so much time, because if you decide to change this primary color later, you can easily head over to this color style and then you can modify it by clicking on this edit style icon like here, and changes will apply immediately. Alright guys, that's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next video. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video of this course. In this video, we're going to be talking about masks. Actually, masks allow you to show a specific portion of an image or an object. Okay, so whenever you want to use a specific section of an image, you can easily use masks. Or if you want to present only a portion of an object, you could still use masks for that. So how can you use masks? As you can see here, I have created a square and I have placed an image from our assets file. And if I want to use masks, first I need to choose this layer, and then I can click on mask icon right at the top like this. And after clicking on this icon, your layers will be disappeared. Okay, so now I can select my image from the layers list, and then I'm gonna move it to the left side. And as you can see, now it has been clipped. You need to keep in mind that masks will apply to all layers above it. Okay, so here if I move this image layer to the bottom of my mask, you can see that nothing happens. The other way of applying a mask to your layer is to choose both layers. So first I'm gonna put this image on top of my rectangle or square, and then I'm gonna choose both of them and then click on mask like this. The other important thing that you need to keep in mind is that if you're using a gradient or an effect for your rectangle and you want to use masks, you need to duplicate your shape in order to keep those effects. Okay, so if I add some drop shadow here like this, I'm gonna set it to 20 and the Y to 10, and then I'm gonna create my mask. However, now as you can see, my drop shadow color has been changed. So in order to fix that issue, before creating my mask, I can duplicate my rectangle. I'm gonna put it here, right below my mask layer, and then I can create my mask easily. And now as you can see, I have a mask group. So if I want to put this rectangle, which is my drop shadow, into this group, I need to make sure that I place it right below my mask layer here. Because if I put it above that, this mask layer will apply to this rectangle as well. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next video. Hi everyone, and welcome back to another video of this course. In this video, we're going to be talking about components. Basically, components are reusable elements, okay? So you can create them once and you can use them multiple times. It's pretty amazing. So they are like symbols in Sketch. So without further ado, let's get started. First of all, I'm going to go ahead and create a button. So I need a rectangle. I'm going to drag and drop. Let's set the width to 270 and the height to 70 like this, and then I'm gonna increase the corner radius to 20. Pretty awesome. I think it's a good idea to change the color as well. I'm gonna set it to this color. The code is 3562 and double F, and then I need a text. So let's write primary. And I'm going to choose the SF Pro text font, and the weight of medium, and its size is going to be 20 points. Okay, then let's change the color to white in order to have a good contrast here. I'm going to select my elements, align it to the center, both vertically and horizontally. And now let's group them, and I'm going to call it button/primary. And I think it's a good idea to add auto layout to this button. So I'm going to press Shift and A, and as you can see, the auto layout has been added to this button. Okay, the next thing we need to do is to click on this icon in order to create our component. So if I click on that, it's done. I just created my first component. You can also add a description to your component here. So I can write it's the primary button like this. And now how can you reuse this button? It's so simple. Do you remember that in layers pane we had the asset section? Now if you open it up, you can see that in local components we have our created components here. So if I want to use that, I can easily drag and drop it. And if I hover on top of that, you can see the description that we just wrote. So there we go. And because I added the auto layout to it, I can easily change this text. For instance, let's write get started. And its size will dynamically change. Pretty awesome. But what if you want to change some properties of this instance? Okay, actually this button is an instance of this master button. So we call this button the master component, and this button is an instance of this master component. Okay, so if you want to change some properties of that, for instance, if you want to change the color, you can easily head over to fill section and you can change it. And as you can see, nothing happens to the master component, okay? However, if you try to change the master component, it will affect all of its instances. So in the inspector section, you have the instance section here, and here you have a drop menu, and I'm going to show you how you can use that. But if you want to go to the master component, you can use this button like this, and now we are in master component. So here, if I try to change the color, you can see that its instance will change immediately. Or if I increase the corner radius here, you can see that it applies to its instances immediately. So I'm going to set it back to 20. Now let's create another button. So I'm going to choose this primary one. I'm going to duplicate it like this. And before making any changes here, we need to detach it from its instance, okay? So first we need to click on detach instance. And now if I change it, nothing happens to the previous button. So let's change the opacity to 75%. And this one is going to be the hover state of our previous button. Okay, so I'm going to go to layers list and let's change the name to button, hover, and click on create component, and that's done. So now if I select this get started button and I go to this drop menu in the instance section, I can go to button. Of course you have related components here. However, because I use slash, when I name them, I could put all those buttons into this group button. Okay, so now I can change it from primary to hover, and there we go. It was so simple. So now let's go ahead and add some effects to this button. So I'm going to choose the master component and then click on this plus button in effects section, and here we have drop shadow. So I'm going to go to the advanced section and let's choose the same color here and let's change its opacity to 15%. Very well. I'm going to change the blur amount to 20 and the Y amount to 10. The X is going to be 0. Okay, it's pretty awesome. So let's create another button here as well. I'm going to duplicate it. Then I'm going to detach it from its master component. And then let's change the opacity to 25%. And I'm going to remove this drop shadow because it's going to be our disabled state. So now I'm going to rename it to button/disable. Pretty nice. And click on create component. And it's done. So if I just select this get started button, and I go to this drop menu, I can easily choose disable. It was so easy, wasn't it? You can make almost everything a component, okay? So for instance, we can go ahead and create a text field. I'm gonna select the line and let's drag and drop. Pretty good. Here we have created a line. Let's choose the same color as our button. Pretty nice. I'm going to increase the thickness of our line to 2. Fantastic. Let's change the width to 350, and we need the text here. So I'm going to write text field. Pretty nice. And let's change its color to this one. And I'm going to set the top padding of this line to 8 pixels like this. And let's move this text a little bit to the right. Pretty awesome. And I think it's better to decrease the opacity of this text to 50%. Fantastic. Now let's group them. I'm going to call it text field / active. And let's create a component out of this. Pretty good. However, make sure to align your text to the left like this. You could also add auto layout to this, but for the purpose of this video, I'm gonna leave it as it is. Now let's duplicate it. I'm gonna detach it from its master, and then let's change the color to something like this. Okay, and this one as well, and it's going to be 50%. This one is going to be the error state, so let's change its name to error, and I'm going to create a component. So now if I go to assets, in local components, MacBook Pro 1, you can see that I have text field, and here I can use it easily. Let's change it to my name. Okay, pretty awesome. And if I want to change it to the error state, I can change it here easily. There we go. So you could make your card as a component, your buttons, your text fields, your sliders, every single thing. And it's so useful and powerful, and it's gonna accelerate your design process. So now we have created our components and we can use them locally. However, if you wanna share these components with your teammates, you can easily head over to Assets section and you can click on this icon, Team Library, and here you have the ability to publish your current file to other team members. And then they can use all these components in other projects and other files, which is pretty cool. Keep in mind that we are going to practice all this knowledge in the future's lessons because we are going to create our own real-world projects based on these knowledge. So don't worry if you don't understand every single thing here. It's totally normal and you're going to learn it by practice. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching it, and I will see you in the next video.
Hey, welcome back. In this video, we're going to be talking about a new cool feature that has been added to Figma recently, and it's called variants. Alright, what does this feature do? Let me show you an example. Let's suppose we have a button, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and create a button quickly. So let me select the rectangle and just click and drag to create this rectangle. And I'm gonna change the height to 44 pixels and the width to 100, like this. Let me zoom in. Perfect. And then I'm going to make it rounded. So increase the corner radius to 5. Fantastic. And finally, let me change the color to purple, like this. Pretty good. Now for this button, we need a text layer. So I'm going to press T on my keyboard and click to create a new text layer. And let's write button. Then I'm going to change its color to white, like this, and its font size is gonna be 14. Then I'm gonna select both these layers and align them horizontally and vertically. That's good. Once again, select both of them, and I'm gonna add the auto layout to them. So hit Shift and A on your keyboard, like this. So now we've just created a simple button which is dynamic, okay, like this. As I showed you before, you can create a component out of this button, okay, like this. You could just create a component and it's totally fine. But let's suppose we have different states of this button, okay? So let me duplicate it, Command D or Control D. I'm gonna move it down. For the first one, I'm gonna rename it to button / primary / default, like this. And this second one is an instance of this component. So first, I'm going to detach it. So I'm going to click on this 3-dot icon and click on detach instance. Okay. So now I'm going to change its name to button / primary / hover. Okay. So this is the hover state of this button, like this.
And then I'm going to add another fill to the fill section, which is an overlay layer. And I'm going to change it from linear to solid. It's white. That's perfect. And let me decrease the opacity from 100% to 10%. Fantastic. All right, remember to create a component. There we go, we have the second button. And if I go to the Assets tab, you can see that we have 2 buttons, okay? So far, so good. Let me create one more button and then we will jump into using variants, okay? I'm gonna duplicate it, move it down, detach it from its master component, and I'm gonna rename it to button primary pressed, okay? And this time, I'm gonna change the color of our overlay fill, and instead of white I'm gonna use black, okay? And let me increase the opacity to 20%. All right, now let me create a component and we are done. So let's suppose we are working on a project and you want to use one of these buttons, okay? So you could go to the Assets tab and you could drag and drop button primary, okay? And if you needed the hover state, you could swap the instance here to hover, pressed, and anything else. But now you could use variants, okay? Which is a very cool way of organizing your components into a single component. Let me show you how it works. So right now we have 3 different components. But what if we could combine these components into a single component? And it's so simple to do. Just select all your components, all these 3 components, and in the inspector, you could find variants, okay? Click on combine as variants. There we go. So as you can see, a new frame has been created here, and we call it a component set. So it is indicated with this dashed border. And the cool thing is that you could customize the appearance of this component set. You could modify the color of border like this, according to your brand's colors, and you could basically style it however you want. But for now, I'm gonna leave it as is, okay? All right, so let me select my component set, and on the right side, you can see under the variants section, we have 2 different properties, property 1, property 2, okay? So the property 1 is basically the type of our button in this case. You could name it whatever you want, but for now, I'm gonna go ahead and write type because it makes sense. But what about the second property? The second property is basically the state. So I'm gonna write state like this. And now if I go to the Assets tab, you can see that we have only 1 component, okay, which is button. And I can drag and drop it into my canvas. And on the right side, you can see that we have type and state. Okay, for the type, since we have only 1 button type, which is primary, we don't need to change it. But for the state, we can change it to hover. We can change it to pressed like this. That's so simple, isn't it? This is what we call one-dimensional variants, okay? Because we have basically different components here with the same properties, however, with different values, okay? So in general, we have one-dimensional variants and multi-dimensional variants, okay? And I'm gonna show you how you can create multi-dimensional variants as well, so don't worry. But before jumping into multi-dimensional variants, let me give you 2 more examples here. Let's suppose you wanna create a switch that has actually 2 different states, on and off, okay? So let's go ahead and quickly create a switch together. For switch, we need to create a rectangle like this. I'm gonna set the width to 60 and the height to like this. And then I'm gonna make it rounded completely since it's a switch. And let me change the color to white. Fantastic. Now I'm gonna duplicate it. So hit Command D or Control D on your keyboard. And then I'm gonna decrease the width of this new layer, this duplicated layer, to 30 so that I get a 30 by 30 pixel circle. And then I'm gonna move it to the right side like this, and you could change its color to green. I'm gonna change it to this green. Perfect. Finally, I'm gonna scale it down a little bit. So hold down the Shift and Option key together, or Shift and Alt key, and try to scale it down like this until you get a 24 by 24 pixel circle. Fantastic. So let me go to layers, and now I'm gonna group them. Let me rename it to switch /on. Then I'm going to duplicate it, Command D or Control D, move it down, and I'm going to double click on this green circle to select it, move it to the left side, okay? Make sure to maintain the same padding here, okay? Here we have a 3 pixel padding for top, right, and bottom, okay? And if you want to see the padding, you can hold down the Option or Alt key on your keyboard and hover on your element like that. And then here we have 3, 3, and 3. That's perfect. And last but not least, we need to change the color from green to gray, okay, to indicate that this switch is turned off. And finally, let me rename it to switch off. And then I'm going to select both of them. And in the toolbar, instead of clicking on this button, I'm going to click on this arrow icon to open up this drop menu and click on create multiple components. Let me show you what happens if you click on this button. If you click on this, you will create a single component, which is not correct. I'm going to hit Command Z or Control Z to undo the process, and let me create multiple components. There we go. Right now we have 2 different switches, switch on, switch off. And if I head over to the Assets tab, you can see that we have 2 different components. Okay, that's fine. But we are going to take it to another step by using variants. So what we need to do is select both of them and combine them as variants. There we go. And now I'm going to change the property name here to switch. And since we used off and on in the name of these switches, if we try to add an instance here, you could see that we don't have that drop menu anymore. We have this cool switch feature like this, and it feels really good. Let me select my switch component set and try to rename this off to, for example, disable, and this on to enable, okay? And now we don't have that functionality anymore. We have this drop menu. It works perfectly. However, using this cool feature, you could make it even better. So I'm going to write off here and on here. You could use true and false as well, okay? And also you could modify their position like this. You could click and drag to change their position, okay? So I'm gonna put on in the first place. Let me show you how you could use true and false, okay? All right, I'm gonna rename it to false, and you will get the same functionality. Perfect. Can you see how amazing these variants are? Alright, this was another one-dimensional example. I'm going to show you one more example, and then we will jump into creating multi-dimensional variants. Okay? The next example is going to be a radio button. So what do we need for a radio button? Obviously, we need a circle. You could press O on your keyboard as well. Hold down the Shift key, click and drag to create a circle. I'm going to set the width and height to 30, so it's totally fine right now. And let's change the color to white. Okay, then I'm going to duplicate it, hit Command D or Control D on your keyboard, hold down the Shift and Alt key or Shift and Option key, and try to scale it down like this. Okay, so for the inner circle, we're going to have an 18 by 18 pixel circle like this. And I'm going to change the color to this purple like this. Okay, let me head over to the Layers tab, and I'm going to select both of them, group them, hit Command G or Control G on your keyboard, and let me rename it to radio button /on. Okay, I'm going to duplicate it, move it to the right side, and double click on this inner circle, remove it. And let's rename the group to radio button /off. Select both of them, create multiple components like this. And then while these 2 components are selected, click on combine as variants. There we go. And now let me go to the Assets tab, drag and drop radio button. And we have property 1, we didn't rename it. So if you want to rename it, you should make sure to select your component set, not your component itself. Your component set, which is radio button. And here you can double click on this property 1, and let's write state. There we go. And now we have state. It's pretty good, isn't it?
Alright, now let's talk about multidimensional variants, okay? So first of all, I'm gonna go ahead and create a new page here to organize our components, okay? So this is our page 1. I'm gonna rename it to one dimensional, like this. And I'm gonna create a new page by clicking on this plus icon, and let me write multi-dimensional. Perfect. All right, let me move back to one dimensional, and I'm gonna select this button component set, copy it, Command C or Control C, go to multi-dimensional page and paste it. Hit Command V or Control V, okay? All right, so what are we going to do here? First of all, I'm gonna go ahead and enlarge this frame, okay? So I'm gonna enlarge it like this so that we have more space to work with. And then I'm gonna organize these buttons. So I'm gonna move it to the first row for this one as well. So we have one button with 3 different states like this. Let me make this frame smaller. All right, first of all, I'm gonna move these components out of this component set, okay? So we don't have variants anymore. If we go to assets, and if we go to multidimensional, we have 3 different components, okay? Which means that we are not using variants anymore. And now we need to rename these buttons. How can we do that? I'm gonna select all of them, and I'm gonna hit Command R or Control R on my keyboard. And here, using this window, I can rename all my layers, all my components at the same time with cool functionalities. So I'm gonna head over to this rename to field, and let me click on this current name button, okay? This way we are getting the current name of our layer, and then we can add more text to it. So I'm gonna write slash and then without icon. Perfect. And click on rename. There we go. We've just changed the name of all our buttons. That's amazing. Now I'm going to duplicate them, Command D or Control D, move them down, and these are the instances of our master components. So as you know, we need to detach them from their master components. And once again, I'm going to go ahead and rename them. So hit Command R or Control R. And here in the match field, I'm going to write without icon text. Okay. Make sure to write it exactly the same way you wrote it before. It's so important. So without icon, and then replace it with icon and hit rename. Now we've just replaced it easily. And then here we are going to add an icon to these buttons. How can we do that? It's so simple. I'm going to go ahead and create a star just for this example. So let me set the width and height to 16 pixels, and I'm going to change the color to white. Fantastic. And then move it here, drag and drop it. And as you can see, since we are using auto layout, the width has been changed automatically. And this is not what we want, because we want to maintain the width of our primary button, okay? To fix that, I'm gonna head over to the auto layout section in the inspector. And for the horizontal padding, I'm gonna write 16 pixels like this. That's exactly what I need. And I'm going to repeat the same process for all my buttons. So I'm going to select my star, hit Command C or Control C, and select this button and hit Command V or Control V to paste it. And now I'm going to change the position of this icon from right side to left side. So I can use the left arrow key on my keyboard to do it simply. And once again, select your button, change the horizontal padding to 16, and last but not least, I'm gonna do the same thing for my last button. Okay. All right, everything is done. The last thing we need to do is create components. So I'm gonna select these 3 buttons and create multiple components. Perfect. Now we have 6 different components, okay? And it's time to create variants. So I'm gonna select all of them and click on Combine as Variants. There we go. We've just created multi-dimensional variants, okay? And on the right side, if we head over to the variants section, we can see property 1, I'm gonna write type. Property 2, I'm gonna write state. Property 3, I'm gonna write icon. And here we have with icon, without icon, okay? As I mentioned before, you could just rename it to on and off,
okay, to get that toggle feature. And now I can go to the assets, multi-dimensional, you could drag and drop it, and there we go. We have primary, we have state like this, we have icon or without icon. That's amazing. So this is basically how a multi-dimensional variant works. Okay, but what if we could take it to another step by adding a new type of button here? So now we have the primary button, but we can add a secondary button as well. So how can I do that? It is so simple. First of all, I'm going to select my component set. Then I'm going to enlarge this border, or let's say frame, like this. And finally, I'm going to select all my buttons, hit Command D or Control D, move them down. First of all, I'm going to select all of them. I mean these 3 buttons without icon. And let me change their color. So go to Selection Colors and try to change the hue. Okay, like this. I think it's good. And make sure to grab this hex color code, copy it, and select the other 3 buttons and paste the color here. Alright, so we are done with the color. The only thing left is change their name. What should we change here? We need to change the primary keyword, okay, to secondary, and we are done basically. I'm gonna select all of them. Okay, hit Command R or Control R on your keyboard, and here in the match text field, I'm gonna write primary. Okay, so it means get primary, and then I'm gonna replace it with secondary, like this. And if I hit rename, they are renamed, and you don't need to do anything else. Let's give it a try. I'm gonna go to assets, and I'm gonna drag and drop this button. And now instead of primary, I'm gonna choose secondary. And we have other states. You could turn on icon like this. So this is how you could create different types of your button, okay? All right, let's recap. First, you need to remember that we have 2 different types of variants. One-dimensional variants and multi-dimensional variants. The second thing you need to remember is that you can use variants for components. So you should keep in mind that you need to have components if you want to use variants. And the last thing you need to remember is that you should try to organize your properties very well, okay? So if I select this component set, here I have type, state, icon. Make sure to name them properly, okay? Because later on, as your project grows, you will find it easy to work with. And the last thing I'm going to mention here is that you could actually modify the order of these properties. So if you hover on this type right next to it, you could see that an icon appears. And if I click and drag like this, I can change the order of these properties, which is so cool, okay? So based on the level of importance, you could just modify them. But in this case, I think type, state, and icon makes sense. All right, guys, that's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video. So see you then.